Chapter 10, and what is one of my favorite verses in Ecclesiastes, because it has so many applications and so many ways to use it. And as I told you last week, the name of the sermon is Do the Work. And we'll see exactly what it is that means here tonight. So if you happen to have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 18. That's where we are tonight, Ecclesiastes 10:18. And the title of the message is Do the Work. I'm hoping this gives many of us a spurring to actually do the work that God has given us to do. Remembering that whenever you hear the gospel and you put your faith in Yahshua HaMashiach, that is not the end. That is not simply you reaching the goal line and now it's time to sit down and relax. It's the beginning of your new life. That is where your new life begins. Question: whenever a baby is born, do you say, "Oh, thank God, we're all done. The baby was born. Hey, just leave it there. Let's all go home. The job is done"? Or is that the actual beginning of the work? Does the baby say, "Well, I made it out of the womb. That's it. I can just go ahead and relax and never do anything else"? That's not where life ends. That's where life begins. That's literally where your adventure of life begins. So we were alive in this world before Christ, though spiritually dead. But whenever we have an encounter with Yahshua and we put our faith in Jesus Christ, that is where your life begins. That's the beginning of your adventure. So, and this will go right in line. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine, because I love lifting weights, and Roger's a bodybuilder. He's like an actual bodybuilder. I just casually lift weights. Yet, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, to become a bodybuilder, you don't go join a gym and then say, "My job's done. I joined the gym. I can go home and just do whatever I want now. I can go home and relax and eat pizzas and cake and pie and just kind of hang around doing nothing because, hey, I'm a gym member now." What good is your gym membership if you're not in the gym, working out, growing in your gym membership, right or wrong?
Is that what happened?
So I know a lot of people are probably having an epiphany right now. They're like, "Oh, that's what happened."
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with being a disciple of Christ. It's the same thing with being a son of God. Whenever you hear the gospel and put your faith in Jesus Christ, that's the beginning. You now have membership to the gym. You now belong to the gym. You're now a member. Congratulations. Whenever you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you're now a son of God. You've been justified. You're not going to heaven. Sorry about that. You're going to heaven. You're not going to hell. We got that backwards, didn't we? So, you're not going to hell. You're going to heaven. Yet, is that the end of the Christian life? It's just the beginning. Because once you say yes to Jesus Christ, that is the beginning of your sanctification. That's where the sanctified life starts. Many people want a good marriage. But it's not as easy as just going down to the courthouse, signing some papers, paying $100, putting on a ring, and then going home with this person and saying, "We're married, I'll see you later. I don't really care to get to know you, and I don't really care if I ever see you again, but hey, I'm married. At least now, whenever someone asks, yes, I have a wife. See you later. I'm going to sleep in this room. You sleep in that room. If you don't see me for a few days, well, I have stuff to do. See you later." Is that a marriage? Not a good marriage. It takes work. If you don't do the work, that means you're neglecting a wonderful gift that God has given you. If you're not getting to know the one that you're married to, if you're not living with and growing with and loving and communicating with and experiencing things with your new spouse, you're missing out on the beauty of marriage. If you're not living in a faithful relationship, you're missing out on what God has intended for a good marriage. A degree. Okay, you make it through school. You did a whole lot of work. You took a whole lot of tests. You did a whole lot of projects. You studied a whole lot of books. And all of a sudden at the end, they give you a degree. So now you can just go back to mom and dad's house and lounge around, right? Parents, after footing the bill for a college degree, if you had to foot the bill, do you want them to think that that was the end, getting their degree? That's just the beginning. It's literally just the beginning. So now that you have the degree, what do you do now? You put the degree to work. You use what you've learned. all of the growth that you had during your years of college, everything you studied on that degree path, now you want to go to an employer and say, I have this specialized skill now. I earned a degree in this. I now know how to do such and such. Put me to work and I'll be a good employee for you. And then you grow and you grow and you get promoted and you get promoted and you make more money. And now you have more to buy the house for that wife that you already have. You have money for the car. You have money for the kids. And then maybe one day you might even own the company or build your own company. You never know. But it all started with that degree. Okay? Everybody wants a good job. But is getting the job the end, or is getting the job just the beginning? We want to build a retirement. We want to build a reputation. We want to build seniority. We want to build knowledge in that job so that we can get promoted, or maybe even one day build our own company, or maybe one day even take over the company. Who knows? You never know. But you have to do the work. In order to get a good job, you have to learn how to do that good job. You have to show yourself faithful. Here's one straight to my heart, straight to Roger's heart. Good health. Do you want good health? How do you get it? Is everything you're eating dead? Is everything you're eating coming out of the microwave? Is everything you're eating man-made with names you can't even pronounce? Are you living in a acidic world? That's why there's a reason, you guys. There's a reason, unfortunately, that the United States is the most cancer-ridden country on earth. There's a reason. We're the big boys. We're the United States. We're the most powerful nation on earth. We're the nation where you go to find opportunity. God gave us an amazing diet in Genesis 1:29. Fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts. Everything's raw. And it helps you live in the alkaline. It helps your body, your living organism, to remain a living organism and not a dying organism. Whenever everything you eat has been cooked to death, whenever everything you eat has had all the, you know what they say, the garbage disposal is the healthiest person in the house. Because you boil vegetables, and all the nutrients went in the water. Then you pour the water down the drain, and you're eating this lifeless, nutritionless batch of calories, and it's going to satisfy your hunger, but it's not going to satisfy your health needs. And then if you're living a sedentary lifestyle, where there's no cardio, there's no anaerobic exercise, there's no moving around, your body is literally going to deteriorate. And there's a reason why this country, the most powerful country on earth, is a cancer-ridden country. There's a reason for it. And all the doctors, because they're not trained in these things, they're trained in what pill will cure the symptoms of what ails you. Imagine the tree outside, the leaves are turning black. So I come along and say, okay, here's some green spray paint. Every single day, spray paint the 2.5 billion leaves on that tree, and you'll have a good-looking tree. You won't be bothered so much by the black leaves anymore. Well, we're treating the symptoms, but what are we doing to the root of the problem? Nothing. We need to get to the root of the problem, cure the root, and then the tree itself is going to be healthy, and you won't have to spray paint 2.5 billion leaves. Get to the root of the problem. What doctors, they just like to say, what ails you? Okay, I have a drug for that. What hurts? I have a drug for that. And pharmaceutical companies make a killing, and yet they're killing the populace. If you want good health, you have to feed your body the right way. And you have to exercise your body the right way. That's the key to good health. That's it. That's it. You want to learn to play a musical instrument? Sorry, you guys, I took my allergy medicine, my allergy pill, my allergy drug, a little bit late today. You want to play a musical instrument. Everybody wants a microchip that you slide into your ear. Download, bing, it's done. I can now play a musical instrument. It doesn't work like that. You have to learn the basics. What are the notes? First of all, what is sound? What is a note? What is a harmony? What is a scale? What is a chord? What are the progressions of these notes, scales, and chords so that they work well together? How do How do I emote? How do I show emotion on the piano? How do I make the violin happy or sad? Melancholy. You have to understand the relationships between the notes and the scales and the chords, and then put them in a certain order so that they emote that feeling that you're after. What happens if you pick up a violin and you say, man, that hurts my fingers, I'm not doing that anymore? You're never going to learn the violin. What happens if you take your first lesson and you say, I'm not a virtuoso yet? Oh no, that'll take years and years and years. How many years? Maybe 10 years, if you practice every single day. Oh, forget it. Guess what? That person will never, ever play the violin. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you cannot expect to succeed. That's it. You have to do the work. You want to speak another language? Again, most people want a microchip to stick in their ear and just download, bing, hey, I can speak French, I can speak German, I can speak Spanish, I can speak anything but Greek. Speak Chinese, that's Greek to me. So you have to do the work. I've done this, you guys. I know what it takes to learn a language. I know what it's like to be so embarrassed because what you just said is not what you intended to say. I know what it feels like that every word you just said was wrong, and the person you're trying to communicate to, they don't understand a word of it. I know how that feels. I know what it feels like to have to go word by word, preposition by preposition, verb conjugation by verb conjugation, and then you start getting to the expressions. Oh, I know these words mean that, but the expression means this. Oh, I know that's what the words mean, but that's not what the expression means. And then you have different dialects. If you go to Australia, it's going to be a different English slightly than the United States, or England, or South Africa, or Canada. In Spanish, it's the same way. It is a tough, tough thing to speak another language. Is it possible to learn a language? Yes. But what does it require? Years and years of work. Never believe those ridiculous ads. 6 months, speak Spanish fluently. I will place a bet that in 6 months you will not speak Spanish fluently. I guarantee you, in 6 months you will not speak Spanish fluently. It's a gimmick. And they'll argue until the 6 months are up, and they'll say, yeah, well, but they're speaking better than they were. Yeah, you said they were going to be fluent in 6 months. Let me drop them off in Mexico and see how long they survive. Can you imagine? It requires work. It requires years and years and decades of work. Decades. But is the time going to pass anyway? Yeah. If you're going to get married, the time's going to pass. You might as well work on your marriage so you have a good marriage. If you get a degree, you might as well use your degree and use it to your advantage and get a job using your degree knowledge, because you spent all the time to get the degree. You might as well make something count. You want a good job? Work in the job. Do the work in your job. Get promoted in your job. Open up your own business. Take over the company. You want good health? You have to work at it every single day. You want good health? You need to study your diet every single day. You want good health? You need to have that wonderful balance every single day. But it doesn't taste as good. Well, if you know how to do it, it just might. But again, it requires you to do the work. Play an instrument every day of your life. You will practice that instrument. Here's the question. When I started learning to play the piano, here's what I said to myself. People tell me it's going to take me 5 years to become proficient on the piano if I practice every day. That's what people tell me. They tell me it's going to take me 5 years. It's a long time. That's too long. Man, it's too long. I'll be in my late teens by that time. What? Well, that's the point, isn't it? The time's going to pass anyway. Let's say you're 40 years old now. Or you know what? Let's say you're 50 years old. Let's say you're 60 years old now. You're going to become 65, God willing. Whenever you hit 65, do you want to play that instrument or don't you? Yes? Well then, don't stop practicing every single day. Don't get frustrated. Go little by little, chunk by chunk, nugget by nugget. Learn the instrument, take the 5 years, and then guess what? At the end of those 5 years, the time passed anyway, and if you had given up, you still wouldn't play the instrument. But because 5 years is going to pass anyway, why not have something to show for it at the end of those 5 years? but it requires diligence. You know what it requires? It requires you to do the work. That's what it requires. You want a good retirement. Who doesn't? If you spend every penny you make now, or close to it, or more than you make, if you're spending more than you're making, you're not going to have a good retirement. If you have a pension coming, praise God for that. But if you're having to build your own retirement, and you're spending more than you make, or you're spending as much as you make, you're not going to have a retirement. You're going to have the minuscule Social Security, and that's it. That's a tough life. It's very tough. So, why not get on a budget, downsize on certain things, get a smaller house, get a lesser expensive car. Don't go out to eat as often as you do. Don't go to the movies as often as you do. Don't buy yourself new shoes as often as you do. Get yourself on a budget and only give yourself a certain amount of playroom so that you see it growing every day. And don't forget what we studied a few weeks ago, investing. Let your money grow. Let your money work for you. It requires doing the work. You have to make plans. It is good and right for someone to eat, drink, and find enjoyment in all his laborious undertakings all the days of the short life God has given him. I love that verse. That's just great. It is good and right for someone to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all his laborious undertakings all the days of the short life God has given him. Bless you. For this is his lot in life. Remember, we're living under the sun. God wants us to enjoy the life we have, but he doesn't want us to idolize the life we have. He wants us to enjoy this life we have, but search for him and give him all the credit and give him all the thanks. That's what he wants. In the same way, everyone to whom God has given riches, wealth, and the means with which to provide for himself should accept his lot and rejoice in his labor. For this is the gift of God. Who gives us riches? Who gives us wealth? Who gives us the means with which to provide for ourselves? Yahweh. He wants us to accept it and rejoice in it. For this is the gift of God. Let's make the most of it. God gave you a body. Let's take care of it. Aren't we three-part beings? We're triune beings, aren't we? Just as Yahweh is a triune being, aren't we triune beings? We have a mind, we have a body, we have a spirit. Are we to neglect two of them and only give time to one of them? Or are we to maintain and be thankful to God for the body he's given us, for the mind he's given us, for the spirit he's given us? We are triune beings. We should do our very best to maintain and to better those three areas. Now yes, age comes, and sooner or later you're going to find yourself at the bad end of the curse, aren't you? But hey, until then, make the most of your life. Make the most of your life. You have one chance in a dirt body that you get to make a difference for the kingdom of Jesus Christ. Then you'll be glorified and you'll have a 1,000-year reign with Jesus Christ. Wonderful. But remember that your 1,000-year reign of Christ is determined, what kind of glory you have. Your glorification is determined by your sanctification. We'll all be in bodies just like Jesus. We'll all be in glorified bodies. But will you have authority, position, fine linen, riches, rewards, crowns, or won't you? You have to do the work. And there are very specific things that Yahweh wants us to do to earn those things. The greatest investment you can make with your life is living your life for God's glory. It's the greatest investment that you can possibly make with this one life that you've been given. Many people want all these things, but most people miss the big picture. Does God want us to have a good marriage? Yes. It's a prophecy of the marriage coming. Does God want us to get a degree? If we so desire. Does God want us to have a good job? If we so desire. He wants everyone to work. He says, you shall work 6 days and rest one. He says, if you don't work, you don't eat. That's what he said. So God believes in work. He told Adam, you will now till the ground, and you will eat by the sweat of your brow. Does God want us to have good health? Yes. He's given us bodies that respond to exercise. He's given us immune systems that respond to diet. He gave us the world's perfect diet, Genesis 1:29. Does God want us to play a musical instrument? If we can praise his name by it, by all means. David did. Right? Does God want us to speak another language? Does that mean that might open doors for the gospel for you in other places besides where you live? Wow. What an amazing thing. Learn another language. Don't just preach the gospel to the English speakers. Preach the gospel to every person. Learn another language if you want to. If you learn another language, you just vastly open other doors. But in truth be told, in this country, if you speak English and Spanish, you can speak to half the world. Literally. You can speak to half the world. Think about South America. What is the primary language in South America? Spanish. Think of Central America. The primary language, the only language is Spanish. Think about North America. Well, Mexico speaks only Spanish. Large portions of the United States speak Spanish. You go to Spain. You go to other parts around the world and you find Spanish. Does God want you to have a good retirement? Yeah. He wants you to be able to rest and relax once you get too old to work. Yes. But none of that really matters if you don't seek a better relationship with God. If you want a better marriage, let it be because you understand the prophecy that your marriage is. That the man represents Christ, the woman represents the church. You're getting married because you're going to marry the true Christ and be the only true church in the marriage of the Lamb. It is a pattern. It is a model. It is a prophecy. When you get married, you are entering into a prophecy. People don't even realize this. You are entering in and participating in a prophecy of the coming marriage of Jesus Christ and his church when you get married. Men, the way you treat your wife is the way you're saying that you want Joshua to treat you. Women, the way you treat Christ, the way you act toward Christ is the way you're saying that you're going to treat Christ in the next marriage. That's Ephesians 5 for you. Whatever it is you do, good marriage, degree, good health, good job, playing an instrument, speaking a language, good retirement, whatever it is you do, as long as it's wholesome and not perverse, as long as it's not corrupt, as long as it's not sinful, whatever it is you do it to the glory of God, and you will receive rewards for that. And you will have an amazingly wonderful time in the millennial reign of Christ. Lavished with position, authority, fine linen, riches, rewards, and crowns. The day of Yahweh will come like a thief in the night. On that day, the heavens will pass away with a great noise. That's the Big Bang everyone's waiting for. The Big Bang hasn't happened yet. The Big Bang is happening whenever God destroys this current heaven and earth and he restores them brand new. The day of Yahweh will come like a thief in the night. On that day, the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with ardent heat. The earth and everything in it. Everything in it. Should we make idols of any of these things? Should we make idols of anything in this world? No, it's all going to get burned up. Now, seeing that all these things will be dissolved, and that word is to be taken literally, all these things will be dissolved, as in burned up in the fire. What kind of people should you be in all holy conduct and godliness? That is the $10 billion question. That is the greatest question in the Bible. Seeing that all these things will be dissolved, all these earthly things, all these distractions, all these idols that we make on this earth, they'll all be dissolved. They're not eternal. They're going to go away. Understanding that, what kind of people should you be? What's the old expression? It's not so much what you do, it's who you are. Because who you are will begin determining what you do, what you say, where you go. It's who you are. What kind of people should we be in all holy conduct and godliness? Do the work. Don't just read about it. Don't just sing about it. Do the work. Be doers of the word. And not just hearers, deceiving yourselves. What good is it to have the Bible memorized and put none of it into practice? What good is it to have the entire Bible memorized and yet not one word of it has made a change in your life? What good is it? It's fooling yourself, is what it is. I know it, therefore my job is done. No. Do it. Do the work. Do what the Word says. Not because you think you're going to be saved by it, but because that's how you give God glory. That's how you earn rewards for the next life. You're saved by God's grace through faith in Yeshua alone. But now what? Now that you're saved, do the work. Be vigilant in all things. Endure afflictions. Do the work of an evangelist. Preach the gospel, the Great Commission. Make full proof of your ministry. You know how to make foolproof your ministry? Preach the gospel. You know how to make full proof of your ministry? Do the work of an evangelist. I'm doing a crude pun here. You can make full proof of your ministry, and you can make your ministry foolproof if you do the work. Do the work. I keep, only because it's visually easy. It's visually easy and it helps see. Roger, did you just get as big and strong as you are by wanting to be a professional bodybuilder? Or was doing the work required? Do you have to do the work each and every day? You guys, so that's the physical side. But the spiritual side is the same way. Okay, just by memorizing a verse, that's like learning how to do an exercise, right? That's like memorizing what the book says on the correct form to do a bench press. But is that the same as doing the bench press? No, you have to do the work. So, don't just be hearers of the word, be doers of the word. Make full proof of your ministry, and thereby making your ministry foolproof. Do the work. Make full proof of your ministry. I loved going through the book of Hebrews, not only in Lakeland with the gym friends, but going through it with the Hispanics in Spanish probably several years ago now. It was a highlight of my time in ministry. I absolutely love the book of Hebrews. I absolutely love it. I love teaching the book of Hebrews. And this is just one of those amazing 3 verses. Therefore, we should take more seriously the things we've heard. We're already starting to nail this thing down, aren't we? Take more seriously the things we have heard, as to not drift away from them. Isn't it easy? It's almost like a boat in the Greek. It's like a picture of like a boat floating away from the harbor, a boat floating away from from the dock. Well, imagine us. We're Christians. We're going strong. We're fired up for Yahweh. But the years go by, and the time goes by, and we've had ups and we've had downs, and we've been as high as the mountains and as low as the valleys and everywhere in between. We've been from the high to the low to the end of the show. And little by little, years go by, and you wake up one day and you think, boy, have I drifted. Man, I'm looking back and I remember what I used to do in the ministry. I remember who I used to be in the ministry. I remember the people that I evangelized. I remember the people that I touched. I remember the people that I discipled. I remember the people that I evangelized. I remember all these things. I was so active. I was so active and I was so happy. It was just a fulfillment in my heart. I loved it. But now it's like, man, what is it that I actually do anymore for God's glory? What exactly is it that I do? Who am I? What am I dedicated to? Yes, I pray every night. Great. Yes, I go to church every Sunday. Great. What are you doing? Who are you in Yahshua? Don't let yourself drift away. Don't let yourself drift from that center spotlight. Don't let yourself drift from that center of God's will position. how wonderful it is to be center spotlight in God's will for your life. We should take more seriously the things we have heard, as to not drift away from them. Because if the word spoken by angels was set in stone, we're talking about the law of Moses type deal, and every transgression and act of disobedience received loss of salvation. Is that what it says? And every transgression and act of disobedience received a just loss of reward. Isn't that something? Isn't that interesting? How will we escape? Escape from what? Loss of reward. How will we escape from loss of reward if we neglect this great salvation? Can you neglect something that you don't have? Question. Can you neglect something that you don't have? Can you be a negligent parent if you don't have kids? Can you be a negligent gardener if you don't have a garden?
No.
How can you neglect this great salvation if you don't have this great salvation? Right or wrong? Are we talking about loss of salvation here? Or are we talking about neglecting this salvation that you have, which is going to cause you to lose rewards? What are we talking about? We're talking about taking the things we've heard more seriously. We're talking about not drifting away. We're talking about not receiving loss of reward. We're talking about not being negligent toward our salvation. We're talking about being more diligent toward this great salvation that we have. You see that? Is that not exactly what it says? You are God's garden. You are God's building. Have you ever seen a house in disrepair? Have you ever seen a landscape in disrepair? Look at this garden. I don't know where it is. I just Googled world's most beautiful gardens. I happen to like this one, so I used it. Isn't it gorgeous? I mean, I don't know where it is. I don't know who did it. But it took someone or a group of people a lot of hard work. And not only hard work to achieve it, but also to maintain it. What about your great salvation? You have a great salvation. You were saved by God's grace. How are you maintaining it? If they neglect this garden, are they going to lose this garden? Or will they simply have a garden in disrepair? Right? Will the garden disappear? Or will it simply not be a high quality garden anymore? Right? The weeds take over. The bushes start to die. They're not in danger of losing their garden. There's nothing that can take this garden away. But if you neglect this garden, it's going to go from the beautiful state and the gorgeous work that they've done